stand by. In 3, 2, 1.
Reality. Are you living it?
You are a function of this total galaxy, bounded by the Milky Way, and that furthermore, this galaxy is a function of all other galaxies.
Our reality.
The show that will stretch your consciousness and awaken you to a world of unlimited possibilities. It's time to change the world. It's time for an awakening. It's time for Our Reality. Hosted by your emissary to planet Earth, Violeta Frankovic.
Hey, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Our Reality, where every week we try to uncover the mystical reality we live in. And boy, do we have a great show today. Well, the reason for it is a special guest who is an amazing man. I've come across him online, and he has a YouTube channel, also extensive work that he has done with, he's an author and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, including some together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies and are translated into 30 languages. As a mystic, he is now using his talents to explain complicated spiritual laws and concepts in short and free videos in a very unique and simple way online. And this back of a napkin approach explains the bigger picture perspective of our spiritual reality. His videos have been so successful that they have already been watched by over 14 million viewers, and the number of YouTube channel subscription has jumped to 150,000. His videos are also available for free on www.life-explained.com. That is the same one you can use for YouTube, Life Explained, or Hans Wilhelm. Hans says, my mission is to offer these videos to inspire viewers to question and explore spirituality and their own relationship to the universe. His name is Hans Wilhelm. Welcome, Hans.
Violeta, thank you so much for the invitation, and I'm delighted to be on your channel.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Me too, very much so, especially since I found so many topics of great interest explained in such a concise and free and amazing manner that I've never seen anywhere online. So you do have a lot, and I do invite my listeners to go on your YouTube channel and listen and subscribe. You're going to find something there for every situation almost in life, and it's called Life Explained, and we have handpicked a few topics for today because you do have extensive work, and why don't we start with that? The reason why we've picked to start with one is Luciferian Doctrine. Is the reason for it is the craziness going on in the world, and maybe we can understand it better through your explanation on the Luciferian Doctrine. So if you don't mind, we can start with that.
Oh, that's a biggie. And
Yeah.
one of the most watched videos, yeah. Well, let's put it into a nutshell. The Luciferian Doctrine, it started something in the 11th century when the Catholic Church sent out a lot of the Crusaders to the Middle East to fight the Muslims. And these Crusaders were really strong believers, Catholics, and they came to the Muslim country, and suddenly they were exposed to very different forms of religions, from Buddhism, even from Greek, from India, and so on. And one of the important story, which was different to what they were growing up on, was a story about Adam and Eve and the snake. In the Catholic teaching, the snake was Lucifer, and he was actually one who misguided then Adam and Eve and out of paradise. Now, the teachings that they heard was the other way around, that Lucifer was actually the light bringer and was trying to give wisdom to the apple, to Adam and Eve, which God didn't want them to have. And in the Luciferian Doctrine, it just switched it around. It was God was a bad guy and Lucifer was a good guy, the light bringer. A typical thing which the demonic world always has done. They always switched the divine stuff around and turned it in the opposite direction. Like divinity rule has link and be, and the demonic rule is divide and conquer. So this is a typical thing where the Luciferian idea has really misused or corrupted the original teachings. Anyway, the people were so fascinated by this story, they talked to each other, they tried to remember that, and they had to keep this rather secret. So this is where all the secret societies came from. And then they had to swear oaths of secrecy to each other and so on, very brutal things. And that's where all these Freemasons and came from. But Madame Blavatsky in the last century, in the 19th century, actually revealed all this information in her book Lucifer, and said that Lucifer is the only god for our planet, which is in a way true. Lucifer, we can order the demon or the devil, Satan, or whatever it is ruling our world, not our earth, but our world, the worldly concerns. This was followed by Rudolf Steiner, Alice Bailey, H.G. Wells, the writer who wrote the book, The New World Order, and so on, etc., etc. So basically what it means is that Lucifer is truly in charge of our worldly affairs. He rules our politics, our military, finances, and most of all, our religions. And Lucifer is also the one, if we wanted fame, power, and riches. So in his kingdom, he promises that, and he gives that to us. We can really dedicate our life. For anybody who doesn't believe in life after death and before life, can easily fall for this and says, this is the only life I have. Let's make the best out of it. I want to become rich. I want to become famous. And immediately he falls into the lures and attractions of the Luciferian promises. And but he does a Faustian bargain, because nothing is given for free. And by becoming wealthy and famous or whatever you want to do, and you're achieving your goals here in this world, you then automatically sell your soul to the devil, so to speak, and after which have to serve the devil. So this is it. And also one of the major ideas in the Luciferian doctrine is that we are God. And that is a very dangerous concept, which also a lot of New Age teachings have, that we are God. But the moment, first of all, we did not create ourselves. So that is absolutely nonsense that we are God from that perspective alone. And if we believe that we are God, then we are not responsible to anybody. We can do anything and just sort of, it had to be done. I can kill you because it had to be done. And if you're not responsible, you are not realizing what a tremendous karma you're burdening on yourself, which you eventually have to reap. So that's basically, in a way, the Luciferian doctrine, which is also very much at the basis of lots of the various movements here we have in America, on all the corruptions and whatever it is. It runs this whole negative the energy here in our world is done by this energy.
That makes sense. That makes sense, especially with what is going on currently in the world. Do you mind if we mention the law of karma a little bit from your perspective?
Sure. The law of karma is very simple, and we mustn't forget that Jesus taught the law of karma very clearly, very directly. The churches have suppressed it. In my video, Reincarnation Part 2, I explain why the churches and how they suppress this information. But the law of karma is very simple. It is a law, of course, and in fact, Jesus said, you reap what you sow. I mean, it's very clearly there. Whatever we do, every action has a reaction. So whatever we sow out will come back to us. And in this way, anything what is not loving is stored not only in our soul, also in our body, but also in the repository planets of the material and semi-material universe. And there they stay until a time comes that this karma will be downloaded back to the soul. It can be in this lifetime, it can be in a future lifetime. And then we are suddenly hit with our karma, which we have sown in this or previous lifetimes, as an illness, as a blow of fate, or whatever it is. Karma is not punishment. Very important. It's only a teaching tool so that we understand that the pain and the suffering that we have inflicted through our negative words and actions on others, how it feels, and so that we experience it. So out of this, we may hopefully change, because humans only change with two things, either through insight or through pain. unfortunately, very few of us use the insight because we have been given the golden rule. We have got the 10 Commandments, the Sermon on the Mount. We all know this, but very few are living in our daily life by this. And if we don't do it, then eventually when it's too late, we get hurt. Like now, for instance, the climate collapse, where we know we have created this in many, many ways, is hitting us in a major way. But we knew it all the time. The same as we know when we smoke cigarettes, we shouldn't do this. And eventually we end up with lung cancer. It's a simple thing. We unfortunately only learn, or most of us learn only through pain.
Got you. That makes sense. And then it's interesting to tie this into Luciferian doctrine plus the wealth, fame, and power. Do you think that, basically people who do become famous, do you think they change? And do you also think that they're aware the influence that they may be under?
Fame itself is like riches, and power is itself not negative. It is just one thing in our life school here. We may have to become famous, we may have to become rich and even powerful. It's only our addiction to and what we do with it, like with everything else, that's when it becomes dangerous. So, but if a person starts out to want to become famous and want to become rich and powerful, we firstly have to ask ourselves why. And in most cases, it is the desire for approval. I want to be approved by my peers, by other people, because once I'm rich, I have lots of money, etc., and live in a wonderful house, people will love me. It's a lack of self-love. So this strong desire, which particularly young people have, to become rich and famous, to become like the Kardashians, is something which comes from a very, very deep feeling of not self-loathing or not liking yourself. And this is where the negative forces come in and give them the basic idea, I am not enough. This thought, I am not enough, is the driving force. And then the person feels very bad about themselves and sort of very critical about themselves. And these are all energies which this person then oozes out, and this energy is louche energy, which the negative forces live by. They suck that out of us. So the negative forces have great interest in us to become unhappy, suffering, and pain. This is their feeding ground. So they make a young person falling in love with the concept of being famous, rich, and powerful. And all the way he will think, I'm not enough, I'm not. Even if the person in the end reaches the point of money and fame and so on, the major thing which runs in his mind is, again, I'm not enough. And so that's why you see a lot of very wealthy people, super wealthy people, they want more, 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 because the message, I am not enough, is not taken away from them. That is the running thing.
Wow, that is very true, I must say, and very impressive, to think about. And wow, it's very deep. So the I am not enough. What is the way to feed that other than wealth, fame, and power?
What is the way to feed it?
To close that I am not enough sentiment.
Oh,
yeah.
The idea, what has happened, we come here into this earth to undo our karma, most of us. Everybody has a slightly different reason why we incarnate for the only 700,000 hours or 20,000 days, which is a very short time, which is our Earth School. There's a great video, The Amazing Earth School. It's a very short time why we are here, and mostly it is to undo our karma and to learn to become loving again, to become love, which is our original state of being, love. So we come here with the intention to really become love again and to serve. We do this through selfless love and serving others. Now, when we are young, when we are very unsure about ourselves and easily to be influenced, that is when the negative forces tell us, no, you don't need to serve others. You need to become rich, famous, and powerful. And that's where the deviation comes in. So the people are taken away from the original intention and drawn into the drawing and into the lure of wealth, power, and fame. And the only way to stop this is to remember why we are here. If that person, in his agony, because it is agony, rich people can be have got great agony as well as poor people have, particularly when they are attracted to the wealth, and they are important for them is their life importance. And in their agony, they turn within and turn to God or to Christ and says, help me, to get me back onto my original message, on my original path and purpose. And the power of divinity, of God, is stronger than anything. And with this really deep remorse, feeling of remorse and repentance going within, comes so much energy, divine energy, that helps us to turn around and find our way back to the light again. Because Albert Schweitzer made this famous quote. I don't have it really word by word, but he spoke to young kids in school one day, and he said, I don't know what you will become, but I know that those of you will be happy who have learned to serve. And I think that is the key element in serving. That I think you make, for instance, a radio show. I mean, you don't make money of it. You just do it in a form of service because it gives you joy. It feels your purpose. And I have the same with my videos. My videos are totally free. I do not ask for donations. I don't sell a thing. It's a part of service which we give others, whoever want to do it. We do not push it. We merely offer it.
I agree with you.
That is the key. This is a key element of our existence, and everybody can do this. And you don't have to become public like you and I have. You can do the service to a family member, even to an animal, but away from yourself, from our bloated ego, to another being, or even more beings if you can. That is the idea, because love is selfless love, And that we can do in our daily life.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I have to agree with you 1000%, because I tell my producer all the time, I have my main job, which is owning an insurance agency, but this radio show by far makes me happier. So you're correct.
I can see that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. You're correct. Go ahead.
No, that's nothing. That's what Albert Schweitzer meant.
Yes.
If you want to be happy, learn to serve.
Yes,
learn to serve,
absolutely.
and that's where your happiness will be. Not that you won't have frustrations, but you will be happy because it gives you purpose. You have a reason why you wake up in the morning. It's a much bigger reason to be there for others than only for yourself. It's very dull, very isolating, very lonely to wake up only for yourself. And we all have an opportunity to find ways of how we can help and serve others. And it doesn't have to be another human being. It can be animals. It can be a purpose, whatever it is. It can be a political purpose, whatever you may be interested in. But to find that purpose and to get away from your self-absorption to the absorption of others, and then also later on to the absorption of God, of divinity, to serve God and to love God. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I got you. Now, I would like to just briefly talk about this Lush energy, because a lot of people may have, problems with it. And I know that, through studying religions in general, they're called by different names, like in Islam, they're jinns or demons, and in Hinduism and Christianity. And then in the alien world, sometimes we refer to reptilians as this negative force. But what, in your view, who are they, these Lush energies?
They're our brothers and sisters, as simple as that. There was a big exodus from the pure heavens, which in the Bible calls the fall. There were a lot of spirit beings, and you and I are most likely were part of it, who left the spiritual absolute reality, and because we were no longer wanted to we love, we just want our self-love. We wanted our own universe, our own creation. That's what happened at the time. There was a separation. And we separated, and we fell in deeper and deeper away from the pure heaven into the temporary reality in which we are now. And this included billions of spiritual beings who, once they entered the temporary reality, are souls. And many of these souls have lived so egoistically, so selfishly, and stole and robbed from others. They've lost all the initial energy which each spiritual being had when we left the pure heavens. They are empty. You and I are also pretty low on energy, because most human beings are. But what we call the ones who have fallen even further away than we have at the moment have really no energy left. And the only energy for them to exist on is to drain us, to drain human beings. It's sort of like a vampire complex, where the vampire idea comes from. They need our energy. They steal our energy. And they do this very, very cleverly. They give us ideas, thoughts. We call it Trojan thoughts, or inject us with thoughts like, I now need sex. I now need more chocolate. I now need to fight I now do need to this. All these ideas, which are not necessarily ours, are coming to us, and then we follow it. And then we get ourselves into an exciting stage of being. It can mostly be a negative one, like we are very angry at the television who shows us the wrong politician or whatever it is, saying the wrong thing, etc. Or we are going even out to fight physically, or we go inwards to ourselves and fight with ourselves with depression, self-loathing, etc., etc. All these energies, these negative energies, are actually food for the brothers and sisters who have fallen very deeply. And they are as loved by God as you and I and everybody else is loved. God does not see the difference there. They have just fallen away much further. They are our brothers and sisters. So they are not, how shall I say, their action is bad, but they are as valuable and as important as you, as I. But it does not mean for us to communicate with them or to make any kind of contact with them. We let them be, we stay away from them. And I also believe going any kind of negative, like ghost movies or any subject of this matter is not right for us. The less we occupy our mind with, talk about it, the better for us.
Okay,
because
good.
all this is we don't want to attract them and want to become part of our psyche. But we control our thinking, and we try to have as much as possible clean thoughts and loving thoughts, and stay away from the negativity as much as we can. And this also includes, and I find it very important, when we watch media, when we play computer games or watch movies, let us be very careful of what we are watching, because what we put into our mind, into our soul, is just like trash food. We are not supposed to eat trash food because it will harm our body. And these video games and also TV shows or whatever, which celebrate violence, murder, and cruelty and blood and whatever it is like food for our soul, and bad food, trash food for our soul. And whatever we see, we can never forget. It's stored forever. There's nothing in we cannot forget anything. So we may not remember it, but it is all stored. All the negative things. It's bad enough that human beings in war zones have to see these horrors. But we don't have to make artificial stories and fantasy for stories and even exploit this horror further and wallow in that horror. So this is another way to be careful. Stay away from these energies. But they are there, and they are very powerful, and they rule this world, as we said earlier, because the politics, the religions, the militaries, and so on, many of these leaders are totally in the hands of these negative energies, because they want these wars, etc. If you go to the Middle East and you see all the different war zones and so on, this is nothing than feeding ground for these negative energies. All these wars which we have and have had are feeding ground. There's a lot of loose energy gets released by the killing and murdering and throwing bombs, which is just immense of loose energy. And that's why they're so interested in having these war scenes.
That makes sense. That is so intense. It does make sense, Hans. I agree with you. I've grown up in a war, so I completely agree with you. We're going to be taking a short break, our dear listeners, and we will be right back with Hans Wilhelm for more of you to enjoy. Thank you. We'll be right back.
And now, your emissary to planet Earth, the host of our reality, Violeta Frankovic.
And welcome back, everyone, to Our Reality, today with our special guest, Hans Wilhelm, which you can also find on YouTube under Life Explained is the name of his channel. Amazing topics. I really encourage you to look into it. So we will, as we're coming back, we will cover some other topics right now with Hans. We wanted to cover the law of projection, Hans. Can you explain the law of projection to us a little?
The law of projection is, I think, and unfortunately not known enough, and it's one of the most powerful laws for self-discovery. It is called also the law of correspondence, or you spotted, you got it law. It has many, many different names. It basically says, if I look at another person or a situation, any negative emotion coming up from me tells me that whatever I see is in me. I basically project my negativity out on a clean screen, and I see it there. In other words, when a person acts badly and in any forms, or and it upsets us and makes us angry, there is a guaranteed link here between that person's action and myself. In me is something very much the same. Either I have done it myself or I desperately want to do that. And I just see there's someone else expressing the very thing which I have so far suppressed in my life successfully. So I'm angry at the other person. Every time we are angry at another person for what he or she has done, we are basically angry at ourselves. We do not look at ourselves. We try to clean the screen of the movie theater, but in truth, the problem is in us, is in the movie. The movie is in our head. And that is something which is running all the time. So unfortunately, we do not see this. Most of us are not aware of it, that all the people who truly upset us, or situations and conditions which gives us negative impulses, are situations and negative impulses that are in us. And it needs a lot of honesty. And I have, in all these years, since I've known this law, and I've really questioned it at the beginning, it says, this can't be true. I can't be like him or her, whatever it is. But
Right.
when I sit down very carefully and look at it, it says, oh my God, truly, I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing. I've said the same thing. If we're honest, and there we suddenly discover so much of ourselves when we see the world around us upsetting us. Everything that upsets us in the outer world is something that is in us that is not yet loving, and we can turn that into love. Once we discover what it is, we can change it, we can ask for forgiveness, and we can make amends. So the law of projection, or the law of correspondence, is a very powerful law. And I wish that would be one thing that would be taught in the schools, that whatever I find in the other person is in me. It would stop bullying, it'd stop a lot of other things in our life if the kids would know this law. Because people know it. As I said, calling the kettle black, or what the pot calling the kettle black, or you spot it, you got it. We have lots of words for this law, but it's a powerful law that should be known for everyone, and everyone should feel it. If you want to do that, just write down a person who really upsets you, and write down his or her characters which upset you so badly, and then sit down with this piece of paper and think about it. Where have I ever done this as well? So either directly or indirectly. And then we find out, oh my God. And then we find some revelation. And only through this revelation, when we see that we are not all that perfect as we wish whereas we try to fool ourselves, then we can make changes and can really go back onto a path of a more loving way of living.
That's amazing. So everything is like an energy interplay, right? This whole world.
Yes, it's an energy, it's interplay. Yes. It's corresponding. It's the same energy which you see outside in the other person is in you. And it's like two tuning forks together and so on. The one takes over the other vibration because they are similar. That's the thing. It's a similarity between these two things. And we have to admit it. We don't have to. Every time we point a finger at somebody, 4 fingers are pointing back to us. And that's a very powerful kind of metaphor to remember.
So I did listen in one of your videos about the movie The Secret and why it not always works. Do you mind just covering that briefly? The law of attraction?
Yeah, first of all, as I have said, a lot of the New Age teachings, and this is also slightly distorted, the law of attraction is a very powerful law, and it does exist. But if we use it, as I said earlier, for power, wealth, and fame, which unfortunately The Secret is sort of implying, then we are on the demonic side very easily, because that is not the whole idea of the law of attraction. The reason is this, and the other thing is also hundreds of thousands of people, or millions of people have seen the movie and read the book. Very few have ever actually achieved what was promised in the movie. And it's very simple. When we come to this planet Earth, we are given a certain kind of outline of our life. We see a preview of our life, where we will be, where we'll meet certain people, with certain challenges, etc., etc. And that is a purpose, and we agree to that, because in these instances and in these occasions, we are able to clear karma or help other people or do a lot of other services there. So if we one day suddenly decide, oh no, I don't want to be anymore a teacher in, let's say, Nevada, I want to live by the sea and I want to have a villa by the sea and want to be rich and famous, we may try this law of attraction, which basically says, sit down in a chair and imagine you are rich and you live in your villa by the sea, and in no time the villa and the riches will appear. Mm-hmm. The reason why it doesn't happen is because our higher self wouldn't allow this nonsense. It does come from our ego. It does not come from our higher self. And our higher self knows what is really good for us. A higher self remembers why we actually have incarnated. And in our lifetime, we were supposed to live in Nevada and to meet this one wonderful person on the other, to marry in Nevada. And if we would have gone to suddenly change our planned life and live by the sea somewhere, all the people and all the instances which we had agreed to will not take place, and we could waste our whole life. So our dreams and our ideals should be selflessly and lovingly, and not just for our own self-grandization. Mm-hmm. So if we just only want power, fame, etc., and live the law of attraction doesn't work that way. You can't manipulate it that easily, unless maybe you work with demonic forces and they give it to you, but then you have to pay back very dearly. So I would be very careful.
That makes sense.
The law of attraction is a very powerful law. It's a law that runs this universe. But to abuse it in our way does not always work. And this is unfortunately a total distortion of how to use the law of attraction was in the secret.
That makes sense, because life is not here just for enjoyment and perfection, but problems are actually good, right? There are biggest teachers sometimes, or people who hurt us.
Yes. And this is unfortunately so many New Age teachers that promise riches and fame and everything. And we think they are so spiritual, but basically they take us away from our original purpose. As I said, fame, money, and riches are not negative, but once we try to, they are wonderful as a side effect. You can a great career as a insurance agent, and you can make lots of money. Maybe you can be very wealthy with that, but it wasn't your main goal. And then it comes into your life because you are now powerful enough and strong enough to deal with this riches or this fame, to share it with others. But if you only want to go out to be rich and famous for yourself, you will not be able to make the next step to use it and give it for others.
That makes sense.
So it can work against you if you force it onto yourself.
That does make sense, because you're disturbing the plan, basically, that you came here to learn and do. Now, we do all have people in our lives that have hurt us, and circumstances. Some of these hurts are so deep that they go on for years, and we're unable to forgive them. Sometimes it's parents who hurt us, and then it runs really, really deep. So, how do you forgive someone who hurt you very much?
Well, there are many aspects to look at it. First of all, if it's family members, we knew exactly whom we are going to meet before our incarnation. Any family members who is going to hurt us, we have known it before we incarnated. And we said, at that time, yes, I will face that situation. Because whatever they have hurt us is something which most likely we have done to them in a previous lifetime. Nothing comes from everything. There are no accidents. Everything that we experience, there is no accident. It is carefully orchestrated by ourselves, by our soul, carefully, so that we learn to become loving again. Sometimes a person has to hurt us very dearly. As I said earlier, we only learn through insight or through pain. And sometimes a very painful situation has to go through our life so that we turn around and say, oh my God, this person has really been horrible to me. I will not be horrible to my children. As I remember my father, he went to war when he was young, and it was a horrible experience. And he said, what I experienced was so horrible. If any of my sons don't want to go to military service, I will do anything for you not to do that. So he learned from this experience, even if he was forced into it at the time, it wasn't his choice. But he had grown out of it, and he gave this further to the next generation. So we can go through a very horrific experience, learn from it, and pass the strengths on to others. And the only way is, because if we do not forgive, we're only hurting ourselves. The other person doesn't care whether we are not forgiving. They're just living a happy life. The only person we are hurting is ourselves, over and over again. Byron Katie said it so well. Who is hurting you more? The person who lashed out once at you, or you who is hurting yourself by remembering it over and over again in your head over and over again? Who is hurting you more? The person who did it once, or you doing it to yourself all the time? So therefore, forgiveness is something that we give to ourselves. It's a promise. It's something. It's a gift to ourselves. We set ourselves free from that. And when we understand that, most likely, as I said earlier, in the law of correspondence, if a negative parent or whatever, friend or whatever, hurt us in a way, there's usually something in us which is very similar, because most likely we have done it in a previous lifetime. So obviously we have a similar trait. I've done something similar. So we are not necessarily better than the other person. It's only tough for us to admit that we probably could have done the same thing. It's time to let go. If we don't let go, we hurt only ourselves.
Yeah, it's extremely tough, especially when you are in that victim state of mind and you're feeling hurt. And on top of that, you're trying to process it, and adding to your hurt, it feels like by saying, hey, it might be my responsibility. I might have done this at some point. It takes extreme maturity in order not to break down and just say, to heck with it all, But
yeah, you're doing. That's a very good point. You don't go through self-loathing and self-hating, because I'm responsible, like a young child who believes that she actually is responsible for the divorce of the parents or whatever it is. That does happen. This is a point we do not take on. But we do recognize that we do have the same weakness and the same possibility. But we do not feel, we don't get into a lower vibration because of it. We feel it from a strength point. And you see, we have got that incredible power with us, which is God, which is Christ. And if we lean onto that help and ask, help me in this situation, everything can be done and everything can be moved. And it's not, we are sometimes too proud to ask for this help. But this help is standing next to us and says, ask me. They are not pushing themselves onto us, because they respect our free will. But please help us. We are here to help you. We have got the whole unseen army of angels, basically, to assist us to make a success out of this life. So let us ask for the help. Let us ask them, please, to help me to get through this and to give me strength and to make the right decisions. And they're there, and it will come. Get a close relationship with the divine part of your life, with God, with Christ. And if you want to do with your guardian angel, but I rather prefer you go right to the source, right to God.
Right to God. Amen. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful. So while processing, come from a point of power, say you're not perfect, you hurt me, you're not perfect, but I release you, I forgive you. I come from a place of power and or of self-conscience. But what I was going to ask you also in regarding to that, so it seems like the good ones they're asking for our permission, and the Lucius are kind of gaining our consent by deception. So it's important to remember that the angels are on standby and keep asking them, going out and asking proactively.
Yes, yes, we have to.
On that note, could we talk a little bit about let's say we completed our life here on the planet, and now can we talk about the topic of death, dying, and what happens after death?
Okay, jumping really coming good, yes. So first of all, I think what we find out if I think most of your listeners understand that we do have a soul, or we are a soul, and when at the moment of death we separate from our physical body. I think most of your listeners probably are aware of this.
Yes.
That we are we are eternal creatures. We cannot die. Death is not possible. But we do inhabit physical bodies from time to time to learn our lessons. So when the time comes of our physical death, the soul separates from the body. Now, a soul which does not know that's dying, doesn't believe in life after death and so on, is very attached still to that body. And it can take hours, days, and sometimes even a week for the soul to let go of the body. They are still connected with the information band, or silver cord in the Bible said. And until they finally let go of it and can still be earthbound and not go much further. But I'm bringing this up very shortly because of this situation. And this, it is so very vitally important to understand that at that time, the soul is still connected to that physical body. And the medical staff will see this as a flatliner. There will be no action in the brain, but the soul is still connected. At this moment, the body can easily be harvested for our organs, which is tremendous painfully for the soul. The soul will experience the horrific thing of ripping open the body, taking out the body parts, and so on, because it is still connected. And in many cases, if you take the heart, for instance, which transferred to another body, the soul will go with the heart into the next body. And that body has got two souls. There are many books about it, and you can read it. And I've made a book, actually made a video on organ transplantation, where I give many books on that one. So I'm just only mentioning it is very dangerous. Organ transplantation is a horrific thing. And it's because it's not understood from the spiritual perspective. Anyway, if the soul finally then leaves and the silver cord is cut, they first of all find out that there is no such thing like death. And they still have a body after death. It's a spiritual body. It's very different than the ones we had before. It's usually younger and more healthy and vibrant. And at that time, we also find out that we can't hide anything because we are totally transparent. Everybody can see us as we are. And we also have, but we still have the same character, which means our personality. We have opinions, beliefs. We even have our cravings and our addictions. If we addict to certain kind of substances here, we bring that addiction into the next life. And it can be very, very painful because we do not have the physical body to satisfy our addictions. But in most cases, we are then greeted by light beings, angels we call them, and also greeted by loved ones, by spouses, friends, and relatives who have already gone before us. And we also might find that the surrounding in which we are is surprisingly similar to the one on Earth. We furthermore will find out that there is no such thing like eternal hell or damnation or final judgment day. We will have a form of judgment, which is our life review, but that is a very loving judgment where we see ourselves, we see our whole life as we experienced it, like in a movie, but we experience it also from the person with whom we have interacted, from the other point of view. If we have hurt anybody, we will then feel the hurt, and we feel the pain and so on. So this life review is not done against us. It's only as a tool. It says to look back, oh, how did I do in this very short earth time here? And how much hurt have I done? And how much have I loved? And so on. So it's a preview for our soul to grow. It's very loving. And we are supported with our guardians, by our guardians angel. And it's a very loving thing. And then after that, we are pulled into the sphere that matches our vibration and development, which means if we are highly evolved, we go to a higher sphere. If we are very lowly evolved, we go to the astral sphere. So that's where we are, and where we will hang around till next time around, or maybe we don't incarnate again. We don't have to, but that's where we hang out in the spiritual reality until the next visit to planet Earth.
That's beautiful. And just a question, I'm personally interested, burial or cremation, in regards to this whole organ harvesting, and what do you think? Is either one okay, or?
Let's put it that way. If you are a spiritual aware person and you know what death is nothing but graduation. Basically, your life school comes to an end. It's graduation day. And in the past, people have celebrated death. The original Christian, it was a day of release, and they were sort of happy for the soul that was moving on to the next better life. If you understand that life is, the earthly life is over and you move on, that means you will not be lingering about your physical body and any length of time. Anything is possible, whether you create or whether you cremate or you bury. I personally, if you bury better, I also would suggest to wait 3 days if possible. And if the person if we feel that the person does not believe in life after death, I would maybe even wait a week and then do the burial. That is just only my personal things. I don't think there are firm rules. It goes, everybody is to it. Some people, like in the East, they burn the body right away. And it's the key is for us to separate from the body as soon as we are done. Let's move on for the next adventure. And therefore, it is so important that we understand what happens after death. And most people are not aware of that.
No, you're right. And a lot of pain and and suffering could be saved if we knew about it. And it's interesting what you mentioned about organs, because so many times we'll read if someone has a heart transplanted of a violinist, they began playing a violin, or, so what you're saying is definitely true with the organ. How should I say it? Yes.
You take over the vibration, the characteristics, and often the soul of the donor over, and it can be very traumatic. Very traumatic. As I said, there are many books and many reports of people who had two souls or who have taken over and then suddenly adopted behavior pattern which were totally alien to them before. And the problem is a lot of the harvesting comes from accidents. It's in many cases young people on motorbikes who suddenly die very quickly. But they are not aware of life after death, because when you are young, you think you live forever. So they are very attached to their body, even if the body is totally destroyed. So the organs are very often harvested from accident victims. And the soul of accident victims, particularly when they are young, are not the ones who move on quickly from their body. And then they carry on and want to stay, because it's the only thing they know is the earthly life. And if that can continue by transplanting the heart into another body, and I can continue living here, that's fine. Then they do that. They don't do it with any problems. So the organ transplant video is a very powerful one, and I wish it would be more known for people to be very careful with organ transplantation.
I understand. But there's so many videos of yours that I find fascinating. May I ask you for the last question? How did you get into all this? Was it from young on something you loved, or?
Well, I was always interested in this mystical things when I was young, but there was no internet, so I studied. And I started first with Transcendental meditation, which changed my life totally as a young person and made me sort of very adventurous. I was very, very timid, afraid, and anxious, and meditation helped me to become much stronger. When I was 19, I left Germany and went to Africa and lived in Africa, sort of something I would have never done before without that meditation. And then I learned Edgar Cayce's material and lots of other spiritual paths, and I usually kept it for myself. But it was only when my father died many years ago, and he was, as I mentioned, in the war, and he didn't believe in life after death. He was very content dying. He was happy. He had a great life, but he was willing to die and also believed that life was over. But when he was dying, he couldn't speak anymore, and his 4 children sort of took turns sitting by his side. And at one time, I was sitting with him, and I said that I know you don't believe in life after death, but just in case you find out that life continues, these are the things which you most likely will experience. And I basically listed the point I just mentioned about what happens after death. And after that, he sort of smiled and said, yes, that's you and your stupid ideas. Anyway, he died shortly thereafter, and I totally forgot about it. It was only 4 years later when somebody mentioned a very young medium who came to the area. And I wanted to meet that medium, very good one, because his name was Roland Comtois. So I met him for a book signing in a local bookstore. And I went early there to get a seat. So I was closing my eyes for meditation, and then suddenly somebody taps me on the shoulder and he says, hi, I'm Roland Comtois. When you came in, your father came in as well right away. He came to me and he said, go, this is my son over there. Go to him and thank him for what he told me.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Everything. We're closing in this. Thank you, Hans.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we closed with that. Great story. Thank you for being with us, Hans. And everyone, have a beautiful weekend. Until next time. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Our Reality, hosted by Violeta Frankovic. Live every Saturday from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on the host as well as the show, as well as upcoming guests, please check out our reality show page at kcorradio.com.
Our reality.
From the ordinary to the extraordinary, we've got you covered. Our reality, changing the world, one topic at a time.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.